$6.98. That's what my neighbor Dave spent to make the hood of his 2016 Tacoma look like it came out of a shop that charges $340 for a hand polish. 90 seconds of work. One can. And I watched him do it in my driveway on a Saturday in April. And I'll be honest with you, it looked incredible. 2 weeks later, that same hood had a dull, blotchy haze across the front third of it, and Dave was standing in my garage asking me if the sun had cooked his clear coat. The sun didn't do it. He did it, and he did it with the exact same can. Look, WD-40 will absolutely make parts of your car look brand new. That part is true. I use it. There's a can on the second shelf of my rolling tool chest in Royal Oak right now, and I've had one within arm's reach for the better part of 30 years. But almost everything you've seen about it on the internet has the how right and the after wrong, and the after is the part that costs you money. So here's what we're doing. I'm going to walk you through the places where this can do something genuinely spectacular to your car's appearance, including one trick that'll take a scuff off your bumper that a body shop would quote you $600 to $900 to fix, and it takes about 4 minutes. That one's coming up in the middle here. Don't jump ahead to it because it won't work right unless you understand the thing I'm about to tell you first. And then I'm going to show you the 4 places where this can is quietly working against you and where the internet is straight up wrong. Let's start with what's actually inside the can, because everything comes down to this. WD-40 is not a lubricant. I know that's what everybody thinks it is. It isn't. The name is literally what it does. Water displacement, 40th attempt. The formula they landed on back in the 50s was designed to shove water off metal so it wouldn't flash rust. Read the safety data sheet, which is public, and here's roughly what you're holding. About half of that can is aliphatic hydrocarbon solvent. That's mineral spirits essentially, a thin petroleum solvent. Then you've got a chunk of light petroleum base oil, then propellant to push it out of the nozzle. That's the recipe. Solvent, light oil, gas. So think of it as 2 things fighting each other. The solvent goes on, dissolves whatever organic gunk it lands on, and then evaporates off. The oil stays behind, sits on the surface as a thin film, and pushes water away. That's it. That is the entire personality of this can, which means WD-40 is a surgical tool. It's a solvent that carries a little oil. It's not a wax, it's not a sealant, it's not a coating. There is no UV inhibitor in it. There's no polymer. There's nothing in there that bonds to anything. It sits on top and it waits. Once you've got that in your head, every single thing about what follows makes sense, and you'll never wreck a panel with it again. All right, bugs. Front of your car, spring and summer, the leading edge of the hood, the mirrors, the front bumper. You come back from a highway run and there's a splatter field up there. Most people leave them. Most people run the car through a tunnel wash and figure that's handled. Here's what nobody tells you. Bug guts aren't dirt. They're acidic and they're protein-based. And when they bake on a hot painted panel in July, and my truck's hood in August in Michigan will hit 130 degrees. Easy. They don't just sit there. They start etching. They eat into the clear. And the reason people get so angry about it is that once the etch is in the clear, no wash on earth is bringing it back. Now you're polishing, which means you're removing clear coat, and you only get so much clear coat in your life. And that's exactly the kind of surface a light petroleum solvent is built for. Spray it on, let it sit 30 seconds. Not 5 minutes, 30 seconds. And wipe with a clean microfiber, straight lines. Almost no pressure. The bug residue lifts. It doesn't grind. It doesn't scratch. That's what you want because scrubbing dried bug bodies with a wash mitt is the single most common way people put swirl marks in the nose of a car. You know why bug splatter looks so much worse on some cars than others? It's not the bugs. Honda and Acura clear coats, soft, have been for years. Beautiful gloss, easy to correct but soft, and they mark up and etch easier than most. German cars, your BMWs and Audis, are running a harder two-part clear, and stuff sits on top of it longer before it does damage. Toyota's somewhere in the middle, and their white paint in particular hides everything until it doesn't. That's not brand loyalty talking, that's just what the surfaces do. Which brings me to tar. And this one's the trick everybody's dad already knew. Every spring in Michigan, they patch the roads. And every spring, you drive over fresh sealant. And by June, the entire lower third of your rocker panels and the back of your rear wheel arches look like somebody flicked black paint at your car with a brush. It doesn't come off in a wash. It doesn't come off with a pressure washer. And if you take a scrub brush to it, you're pushing a piece of grit across paint, which is the same as taking sandpaper to it. Tar is petroleum. WD-40's solvent is petroleum. Like dissolves, that's about as basic as chemistry gets. You spray it, you wait a minute, and you wipe. The tar releases. It just lets go. 15 minutes on a whole car. And the bottom half of your car looks like it did the day it left the lot. Now, here's the part that separates this channel from the guy who just told you the same trick in 40 seconds. Every single time you do this, bugs, tar, anything, you have washed that section of paint with a solvent. And that solvent has stripped every bit of wax and sealant off that panel. All of it. Gone. Whatever protection you had is now on your microfiber towel. So you always finish. Car soap, that panel, a good rinse, dry it, and put your protection back on. Spray wax if you're lazy, a proper sealant if you're not. Takes another 6 minutes. If you skip that, if you spray it, wipe it, admire it, and walk away, you've now got bare clear coat with a thin oil film on it. That oil film grabs every particle of pollen, dust, and brake dust that goes by. And in 2 weeks, you've got a dull, blotchy haze across the front third of your hood, and you're standing in my garage telling me the sun cooked your clear coat? Hi, Dave. That's the whole story. Nobody told him the second half of the trick, because on the internet, the video ends at the shiny part. Okay, the one I promised you. Parking lot scuff. Somebody backed into your bumper, or you brushed a pole, or the car next to you opened their door into your fender at Kroger. And you've got a streak of somebody else's paint across your panel, white, red, whatever their car was, and a body shop will look at that and quote you $600 to $900 to blend and respray the panel. Half the time, 90% of that streak is not damage. It's paint transfer. Their paint is sitting on top of your clear coat, physically sitting on it like a crayon mark. Your clear is intact underneath. Run your fingernail across it. If your nail catches on a groove, you've got a real gouge and this won't fully fix it. But if your nail glides over it and the mark is just there on the surface, that's transfer. And it comes off. Spray it. Let it dwell a couple minutes. This one gets a real dwell time because you want that solvent to break the bond between their paint film and your clear. Then a clean microfiber, folded, and light pressure in one direction, not circles. Circles are how you make swirl marks. Wipe, look, spray again, wipe again. It comes off in layers. It'll look like nothing's happening, and then all at once you'll see your actual color underneath. And I have watched grown men make a noise out loud in my driveway when it happens. Now, sometimes the transfer's stubborn, and it needs a little more bite. Then you step up to a light polishing compound, and now you're actually cutting a hair of clear coat, so you go easy. But start with the can. Start with the free version, because I would bet you 3 out of 4 of those "I need a new bumper" scuffs are not new bumper problems. Sarah's Camry took a shopping cart in 2021. Whole diagonal white streak down the passenger door on a car that's dark blue. She was furious. She was ready to call the insurance company. 15 minutes, 2 towels. It was the cart. And then, and I want you to hear this part because it's the part everybody skips, I washed the door and put sealant back on it because I had just stripped that door naked with a solvent. Every time. Wash, protect. That's the tax on this trick, and it's not optional. Adhesive. This is the one that makes a used car stop looking like a used car. Go look at the trunk lid of almost any car in America. There's a dealership badge on it. A chrome plastic oval with the name of some dealer group nobody's heard of. Free advertising on a car you paid for, and they stick it on there with 3M adhesive that's engineered to survive a Michigan winter. Take it off. Fishing line or dental floss behind it. Saw side to side, it pops right off. And then you've got the ghost. The gray, sticky, rectangular shadow of adhesive residue that is now the ugliest thing on the entire car, and it laughs at soap. Spray it. Let it soak. This one wants a full 2 or 3 minutes, don't rush it. Then wipe with a plastic razor blade or just your thumb in a towel. It balls up and comes off. Same for old sticker residue, old license plate frames that left an outline, old dealer decals. The parking permit your kid never scraped off. Jake, my 15-year-old, who is somehow already shopping for a 2004 WRX he can't legally drive yet, spent an afternoon last fall going through my truck and Sarah's car pulling every single dealer badge and sticker off both of them. Total investment. 1 can and 1 bag of microfibers. Both cars looked 2 years newer when he was done, and I mean that. The eye reads clutter as age. Take the clutter off and the car reads newer, which is the whole thesis of this video actually. You're not making the paint new. You're removing everything that isn't paint. Same family of problem, different flavor. Overspray and road paint. You park near a construction site, or somebody power paints a fence 2 houses down on a windy day, or the county repaints the lane lines while you're sitting at a light behind the truck, and you come out to a car with a fine gritty texture across the hood, or a spray of yellow dots up the driver's side. Run your hand over the hood. If it feels like fine sandpaper and it's not coming off in the wash, that's overspray. Little dry droplets of paint sitting on top of your clear. Everybody's first instinct is to go get something aggressive. Don't. Solvent first, always. Spray a section, let it sit a minute, and wipe with a folded microfiber. A shocking amount of it just lets go because those droplets are sitting on top, not in. Whatever's left after that, that's when you go to a clay bar. And the clay is going to work about 4 times better because the solvent already knocked down the load. And I'll tell you exactly why I know that. About 3 years ago, the city resurfaced the lot behind the hardware store on Woodward, and I came out to my F-150 with a stripe of yellow across the passenger side rocker and the rear quarter panel from the wheel line down to the rocker. And my truck's a 2018, so at that point it was, 3 seasons old. Brand new looking. I was ready to lose my mind. 20 minutes, 1 can, 1 clay bar. There is not a single dot of that yellow left. And I want you to understand, the body shop 3 miles from me told me on the phone that I was probably looking at a repaint of the lower panel. On the phone. Sight unseen. That's the sentence that made me start this channel. Not the money, the assumption. The assumption that I wouldn't know better. Chrome. And this is where I need you to slow way down, because there's a version of this trick that's fantastic, and a version that will destroy a $1,500 part in about 11 seconds. Real chrome, a plated steel bumper on an old truck, a plated grille surround, chrome exhaust tips. That's a metal plating over metal. It's hard. And on real chrome, WD-40 with a fine 000 grade steel wool is one of the great tricks in the hobby. The oil floats the debris, the steel wool takes the surface rust flecks and the water spots off. And it does not scratch chrome, because chrome is harder than the steel wool. I did the rear bumper on my neighbor's '97 Cherokee this way. That's the same Cherokee that gave me this scar on my right hand back in 2009 off a hot exhaust manifold. So we've got history. And that bumper went from brown speckled to genuinely reflective in about 20 minutes. Now, here's what nobody says. Almost nothing on your car is real chrome anymore. Your grille surround, your door handle trim, your window trim, those chrome accents on your Silverado, that's plastic. Chrome look plastic. It's a vacuum-deposited metallic film over ABS plastic, and it is measured in microns, and it is soft, and steel wool will grind straight through it and leave a permanent cloudy scar you cannot fix. There is no repair. That trim piece is done. And on a lot of newer trucks, that piece is $300, $400, $500. How do you tell? Magnet. Real chrome plating is over steel. A magnet grabs it. Plastic doesn't. 10 seconds with a fridge magnet and it will save you $500. So on the plastic chrome, you spray, you wipe with a microfiber, and you never ever bring an abrasive near it. And it still looks fantastic, because the oil film fills in the microtexture and throws light back. It just doesn't last. That's the theme, and now I have to turn the corner on you, because we've been talking for a while about a can that removes stuff, and WD-40 is a genius at removing stuff. Bugs, tar, transfer, adhesive, overspray, road paint. The pinstripe some previous owner glued on in 1998. But the second you ask that can to protect something, to be the finish instead of the tool that gets you to the finish, everything falls apart. And this is where the internet gets you. Plastic trim, black bumper cladding, the black trim around your windows, the fender flares on your CR-V, the plastic around a Tacoma's fog lights. It fades. It goes from black to that chalky, grayish, sun-beaten color. And it makes a 9-year-old car look like a 15-year-old car faster than anything else on the vehicle. Spray WD-40 on it, wipe it, and it goes black. Immediately. Deep, rich, wet-looking black. And it is honestly one of the most satisfying before and afters you will ever do on a car. And this is why that trick has gone around the internet about 400 times. Now, what actually just happened? Nothing. Chemically, nothing happened. That plastic didn't get restored. Sunlight over years has oxidized the surface of that plastic and turned it into a rough, porous, microscopically chalky layer. Rough surfaces scatter light, and scattered light reads as gray to your eye. That's all faded means. The plastic underneath is still black. It was always black. When you put oil on it, you fill in all that microscopic roughness. Light stops scattering. It reflects. And your eye goes, oh, black. You did the same thing water does when it rains, and your trim looks great for 20 minutes, which tells you exactly how long it lasts. 2 washes, maybe 3. 1 good rain and a week of sun, and it's gray again. Except now it's gray with an oil film on it that has been collecting dust and pollen and brake dust the entire time. So it can actually look worse than where you started. And which trim you've got matters more than anybody tells you. Because not all black plastic on a car is the same plastic. The unpainted textured stuff, your Wrangler fender flares, the cladding on an Outback, the bumper corners on a Tacoma, that's usually a TPO or a polypropylene blend, dyed all the way through with UV stabilizer mixed into the material itself when it's molded. That's the good stuff. It fades, but it fades slow. And it takes dye and restore beautifully because the surface is porous and it drinks it. Then you've got the smooth, glossy black trim, the window surrounds on a lot of Hondas, the piano black nonsense that got popular around 2017 on everything. And that's typically a coated or painted plastic with a thin gloss layer on top. Once that layer goes, you can't restore it. You can only fill it. And a dye restorer on gloss trim looks blotchy and terrible because it's designed to soak into a porous surface and gloss trim isn't porous. And then there's the anodized and painted aluminum trim on the German stuff, which is a whole different animal and which you should not be putting solvent on at all. So step one is knowing what you're actually touching. Textured and porous? A restorer will genuinely bring it back. Glossy? Leave it alone, or accept that you're going to be reapplying something every few weeks for the rest of that car's life. And it's got zero UV inhibitor in it. Zero. Which means the thing that destroyed your trim in the first place, ultraviolet light breaking the polymer chains at the surface, is still happening at exactly the same rate, the whole time you're admiring how black it looks. And here's the part that got Dave a second time. Trim is adjacent to paint. Always. So when you spray it, you're overspraying onto paint. And when you wipe the trim, you're dragging oily solvent onto paint, which strips the wax off the paint, which is why the panels around freshly WD-40'd trim start looking dull about 10 days later. So what actually works? If the trim is mildly faded, a dedicated trim dressing with UV blockers in it. $12 to $20, lasts a couple months, and this matters, it's actually fighting the sun instead of hiding the damage. If the trim is badly gone, chalky, you can rub it with a white towel and get gray on the towel. Now, you need a real trim restorer. The good ones carry actual dye and a polymer that cures. $30, 1 to 2 applications, and you're looking at a year, not a week. And there's an old trick with a heat gun where you gently warm the plastic and the oils in the polymer migrate back to the surface. It works. I've done it. I'm also going to tell you that it's very easy to warp a fender flare or melt a piece of trim into modern art. And I've done that too, so if you try it, you keep the gun moving and you keep it far away. Water spots. Hard no. I've seen half a dozen videos telling you to spray this on water spots and I don't know where it came from. Water spots aren't dirt, hard water. And everything in Southeast Michigan is hard water, carries dissolved calcium and magnesium. Water sits on your hot paint, evaporates, and leaves the minerals behind as a crust. Leave it a few weeks in the sun, and those minerals etch a ring into the clear coat. Oil does not remove minerals. Oil smears minerals. What you get is a rainbow film with the spots still under it, and now you can't even see them clearly enough to fix them properly. For fresh spots, 50-50 distilled white vinegar and distilled water. The acid dissolves the mineral. Wipe, rinse immediately, wash the panel, re-protect it. For etched spots, the crater's in the clear now and you're polishing. And for prevention, actual prevention, the thing that means you never have this problem again, you want a hydrophobic sealant or coating on the paint so the water beads up and rolls off instead of sitting there flattening out and evaporating. That's a real product doing a real job. That's not what's in this can. Now, the one that makes me the angriest, headlights. Foggy, yellowed, hazed over headlights. You spray WD-40 on them, you wipe, and they turn crystal clear right in front of you. It's the single most dramatic before and after in this entire video. And it is the exact same lie as the plastic trim for the exact same physical reason. That polycarbonate lens has a UV protective factory coating on it, and the sun has been eating that coating for 8 years. What you're looking at when a headlight is foggy is a microscopically rough, oxidized surface scattering light. Oil fills the roughness, light passes through. Clear headlight, 3 days, maybe 5. And while it's on there, it's oily, so it's grabbing every bit of road grit that comes at it at 70 miles an hour. And that grit is now being held against your lens. There's a real fix. It's wet sanding, stepping through grits. And this is the part everybody skips, and it's the only part that matters, putting a real UV clear coat back on afterward. Do it without the clear, and you'll be back to yellow in 8 months because you just sanded off whatever protection was left. I made a whole video about that. Go watch it after this one. A couple of hard nevers, and then I want to give you the actual recipe. Never on your windshield. It smears, it's nearly impossible to fully clean off glass, and the first time you drive into the sun, you'll have a white haze you cannot see through. And no, it will not fix your wipers. If your wipers are chattering, the rubber edge is hardened and torn and it needs replacing, and it costs $20. Never on your brakes. I shouldn't have to say this. I'm saying it. Never on a squealing belt. And this one I have real feelings about because I spent 18 years in powertrain, Ford, then GM, then transmission validation at Stellantis until I walked out in 2023, and a squealing belt is a diagnosis, not an annoyance. It's telling you the belt is glazed, or a tensioner is weak, or a pulley bearing is on its way out. Spray anything on it, and the noise stops for a day. And you've now silenced the only warning system you had. That belt still fails? It just fails on I-75 in the rain instead of in your driveway. I sat in rooms, real meetings, where the warranty math on a part like that got discussed in terms of failure rate versus cost per unit. Not, is this good? Not, will this leave somebody stranded? Failure rate versus cost per unit. That's the whole conversation. I'm not going to pretend I stood up and stopped it because I didn't. I sat there and I drank cold coffee and I went back to my desk. That's why I do this now. So the information gets out of that room. Never on interior surfaces. Not the steering wheel, please. Not the steering wheel. Not the pedals. Not the dash, where it will throw a glare straight into your eyes at sunset. Interior plastics get a proper interior dressing with UV protection, matte finish, and it costs about the same. And never on rubber door seals. Everybody does this in the winter to stop the door freezing shut, and the light petroleum solvent is not what you want sitting on a rubber weather strip over time. What you want is a silicone paste or a silicone spray made for weather stripping, $2 more. Won't dry out your seals. Actually stops the door from freezing shut, which is more than I can say for the alternative. So here's what brand new actually looks like, and it's not one can. Step 1, you take everything off the car that isn't the car. That's the can. Bugs, tar, adhesive, transfer, overspray. This is the surgical part, and WD-40 is genuinely excellent at it, and I would not want to work on a car without one on the shelf. Step 2, you wash the whole thing properly. 2 buckets, grit guard, top down, wheels last. Step 3, and this is where people who don't detail cars have their whole world view rearranged. You decontaminate. There is bonded metal in your paint right now. Brake dust, rail dust, industrial fallout, iron particles that have physically embedded themselves in your clear coat and are rusting in there. That's why white cars get little orange freckles. An iron remover, spray it on, watch it turn purple as it eats the iron out, and then a clay bar for whatever's left. $25 for both. Run your hand over the paint in a plastic sandwich bag before and after, and tell me you can't feel the difference. Step 4. A light polish if you've got swirls. Step 5. Protect it. Sealant or a consumer ceramic spray. Now, the water beads, the bugs don't etch as fast because there's a sacrificial layer between them and you're clear. The tar doesn't bond as hard, and next spring, the whole job takes half as long. That's the sequence. That's it. Maybe $80 in product, and the same panels stay looking new for years instead of weeks. Every single thing on that list, the can does one job. The first one. And it does it better than almost anything you can buy. It just isn't the finish. It's the thing that gets you to the finish. There's one more thing about headlights, though, because I've been telling you about the yellowing on the outside, the part you can sand, the part you can fix in an afternoon. That's not the failure that's coming for you. The one that actually kills a headlight assembly is water getting in. Condensation on the inside of the lens where you cannot touch it. And people see that fog on the inside and immediately go buy a new assembly. And on a lot of newer cars with LED projectors, that's a $900 to $2,000 part, plus programming. Almost every time, it's not a cracked housing. It's a $5 part on the back of that headlight. And there's a way to dry the assembly out and stop it permanently without ever opening the light. That's its own video, and it's coming. Before then, I want you to do something today. Not tomorrow. Today. Go outside. Look at the trunk lid of your car and find the dealer badge. That little chrome oval nobody asked for. Then look at the bottom of your doors and your rear wheel arches for the tar speckle. Then run your fingernail over any scuff you've been living with and see whether your nail catches or glides. Come back and tell me what you found. What car, what year, and which of the 3 you've got. If it glided, if that scuff is just transfer, tell me, because I want to know how many of you have been staring at a $600 quote for a 15-minute fix. I read every one of them. And anybody who actually goes out and does it is going to be looking at a car that reads 3 years newer by dinner. Anybody who doesn't is going to forget this video by Thursday.